Peter, when you had your heart attack last year, you were very close to death. Now, this must have changed the tempo of your living. Has it changed your way of thinking, your approach to your career?
No, of course, one has to go through a year of convalescence, really, to get back to normal, completely back to normality, where I'm pleased to say I am now. A year of concentrated exercise and all kinds of things, you know.
But has it affected your sense of humour, for example? Are jokes about death no longer funny?
No, it hasn't at all. I think they're even more funny.
Even
about doctors, too. No, it hasn't affected that, you know. Such sense of humour as I have, it hasn't affected it anyway. Probably made it a bit more.
Some years ago, when the Goons were so popular, pardon me for interrupting, you and your fellow Goons created a whole new field of comedy, really, and these characters have already sort of passed into a kind of folklore already. Now, I'm interested to know how you arrived at some of your characterizations. Grit Pipe Thin, for example. Blue Bottle particularly. Was he based on someone you knew, or was he pure invention?
Blue Bottle arrived at the Shepherd's Bush Empire one evening. He was sent round, that's when it was a variety theatre, and I was playing there, and he was sent round from Michael Benteen, who was at the New Cross Empire. I believe even that's closed down now. I'm not sure about that, but I think so. Anyway, Shepherd's Bush was going as a variety theatre, and one day a very tall, bearded Boy Scout arrived. This is absolutely true. He wasn't fat, but he was wide, very wide, and shorts on and white knees and everything, and he said, I remember his opening words to me. He came in the room, and there was a bit of an awkward moment with the stage door keeper. He'd obviously been waiting out there for a while, and he said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Michael Benteen said I was a genius, and I was to see you, he said. But that's simply what he said. I said, oh, that's very interesting, you know, knowing right away what had happened. Benteen was a habit of telling people they were geniuses, you see. And I said, what can I do for your words to that effect? He said, I'm from the Soulgrave Road Boys Club, he said, and I was wondering if you could do a show for us at our annual Boys Club convention. I thought, my God, I must get out of this somehow. So I said, well, I'm stuck here every evening. It's very difficult. He said, oh, it would be after the show. So I thought again quickly. I said, well, it'd be very, very difficult for me, you see, because I'm so tired after the show, and I like to go and rest and everything. So he misunderstood this, and he said, there is a fee involved. So I said, it's honestly not a question of a fee. So he then said, oh, well, just a thought, and sort of backed out of the room. Anyway, that's where Blue Bottle came from. I later saw him waiting at the stage door and sent him round to see Spike, you see. Also said that I agree that he was a genius as well. And he went down to see Spike, and full of himself and everything, and we just started discussing it, and along came the idea of Blue Bottle being a large adolescent, you know.
And many of these comic grotesques from the Goon Show were based on reality.
Yes, in most cases it was based on people we'd met, or, for example, Spike was born in India, and I spent my war years in India, and Major Bloodnock's based on all the Indian Army colonels we ever met out there, really. And the other characters, and they all had some original basis.
When you play these characters, or someone like Inspector Clouseau, are you consciously amused by the character while you're playing him? Or do you
yes, that's,
him?
Of course, a great problem with me. So I'm a terrible giggler, and if I dare stop to think about the character being funny, I'm finished. I can't get through it, you see. I just have to do it until I'm sick of it, and then try and get down to it. I mean, for example, Clouseau amuses me, not because he falls over things, because he's so serious and has such great dignity. You see.
Great integrity.
He thinks he is the greatest detective in the world, and it's because of this that I find him amusing, you know.
Must be, was habit of yours of giggling over the character you're playing must be easier when you're shooting film. The one you've just done, for example, What's New Pussycat. Now, I've heard that this is a kind of surrealist farce. Now, are you breaking new ground again in comedy here?
Well, I honestly don't know what it is. It certainly will be very new, and certain parts of it will be certainly very surrealistic, I should think. It's a potpourri of all kinds of things.
Is it true that you do a send-up of Sir Laurence Olivier?
Yes, in one Peter O'Toole has a nightmare, and I wear this long wig that looks like a Richard III wig. In fact, Laurence Olivier wore in Richard III, and I do it, but except I do it in a German accent. I do Now Is the Winter of Our Discontent in a German accent. I haven't seen any of it, but they all seem pretty happy about it, so I hope it turns out well.
This combination of of surrealism and fantasy seems to be the new comic trend. Would you say this described the show you're doing with Dudley and Peter now, not only but also?
Yes, I would think that would be a very apt way of describing it. I think it's probably one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life, anywhere, at any time. Some of the things they do, it's very hard to keep the standard. As you know, television is a murderous medium to use up material. It eats it up. It's like a gigantic mouth. It takes everything you've got. So you've got to try and be fresh with something every week, and they seem to be. Every week I've seen it, there's always something. If you don't like the whole show, there's always something extremely good in it. They're both, I think, absolutely marvelous.
I suspect that you sometimes miss this world of spontaneous wit and invention, that you must have left of it with your pressure of engagements.
Yes, you don't get so much of it. In the film world, you occasionally get the opportunity to extemporize. For example, with Stanley Kubrick, he's a great one for encouraging this sort of thing.
In Dr. Strangelove, for example.
Yes, it's a typical, and Lolita is a typical example of this. Other directors, like you to stick around with the script word for word. But I try to avoid working these days with directors who are like that, and try and have fun. I enjoy it, try and enjoy myself as much as possible.
I remember reading somewhere once about you that you're terribly sensitive to atmosphere, that you could walk into a house or a television studio and sense at once whether it was friendly or hostile.
That comes, of course, through doing a long time in vaudeville or variety. You get to know, it's not surprising really when you think about it, because however many say, if you're lucky on a Saturday night, there's about 1,000 people in the house, or something like that, depends where you're playing, and they're all looking at one spot on the stage and concentrating on you, and on one figure. So it's not surprising you pick up their feeling, and I used to, mind you, because I was very unfortunate, right? I used to die more or less everywhere I went.
Really?
Only two places used to do well. There was Chiswick, quite well at Finsbury Park, and whenever I used to be lucky enough to play the Palladium, did quite. But north of Birmingham, finish. Out.
What was the worst moment, if you can single one out, that you ever had on the vaudeville stage?
Well, the worst moment, Harry, Spike and I were doing a show at Coventry, where they make, just outside of Coventry, they make tractors and cars and things. And our brand of humour, Harry was all right because he could get off with a song, you see, but Spike and I were dying terrible deaths. And on one afternoon, one matinee, I'd given up the ghost completely. After Milligan had jumped on his trumpet and rushed off the stage, locked himself in the dressing room, I thought, well, I can't go through with this afternoon. So I took on, by arrangement with the theatre electrician, a turntable and plugged the one they normally play record, and they plugged it into the PA system. And I took on a record, I remember, and I said to the audience, this afternoon I'm going to play you some lovely melodies on this record player, and I know you'll love. And I remember they were Christmas melodies by Wally Stott. Still have the LP, as a matter of fact. And I put these on, and I just stood there while the record played. And when it finished, I applauded the record. And they applauded me applauding the record. And I went better than I ever had been in my life. And when I came off, I got the sack. Yes. He said, you're not doing your act as known. I said, well, I don't know what I'm known as, actually. I haven't got no act to do, really. But I said, I went well, isn't that enough? So he said, oh, no, it's no good. You can't do it here, Mike. So that was that.
And that was the lowest point in your career?
The lowest ebb. There was one other thing when I was drumming, but I can't repeat it here.
Sorry about that, but Peter Sellers, thank you very much anyway.
All right. Well, thank you.